Tougher gun law reforms were put into New South Wales Parliament right before Christmas, along with cracking down on hate speech and symbols. The Terrorism and Other Legislation Amendment Bill 2025 passed Parliament with the support from the New South Wales Liberals and Greens. Joining us live now is the New South Wales Independent MP and member for Orange, Phil Donato. Great to see you. Happy New Year, Phil.
Happy New Year to you too, Janie. Thank you for having me.
So you have said that I can mention on air you are a registered firearm owner. What's your thought on the laws?
Yeah, look, obviously what we saw happen at Bondi a few weeks ago was an absolute tragedy, this terrorist attack. But, you know, the response from the government, this knee-jerk response, turning the focus on the law-abiding firearms owners and the way that the legislation was rushed through without any consultation, and the way it was bundled up in a cognate bill with terrorist laws was also, you know, a bit of a slap in the face for the law-abiding firearms owners. We're not terrorists in waiting, you know, but they feel like that's the way we've been treated by this decision, this legislation that's been rammed through the Parliament. I did not support it, and neither did the National Party support it. So we've got serious concerns. My concerns predominantly rely around the caps on the limitation of firearms that people can have, the removal of NCAT as a appeal provision for decisions made by the Firearms Registry. And, you know, this is essentially, and I don't want to say too much because there's still obviously a criminal trial on foot, but this was really brought about by a failure of government agencies, whether it be at a federal level, security agencies or the Firearms Registry. This man should never have had a firearm, should never have got a licence. There were sufficient red flags in my mind that should have they should have been able to link that, and he should never have been able to get his hands on a firearm. And the knee-jerk response from the government has been to pivot, shift their focus on gun laws rather than the own deficiencies within government, both at the state and federal level. And law-abiding firearms owners now are bearing the brunt of that. And I've heard loud and clear from a lot across my electorate, there's thousands and thousands of licensed law-abiding firearms owners, whether they be primary producers or whether they be target shooters or whether they be recreational hunters, who feel like that they've been, you know, targeted, that they're somehow to blame for what happened at Bondi, and that they're being disproportionately punished by that. So a lot of unhappy people in the regions arising from these firearms legislation that was rammed through the Parliament last week.
Yeah, it certainly sounds that way. And I wanted to also ask you about the inquiry that took place the day after the attack in New South Wales Parliament, the proposed energy from waste facility inquiry. And a lot of it is about Sydney's waste going to the regions, whether it's Park, Tarago, Goulburn, facilities that haven't been built yet. But again, it's what I'm hearing from many people in the community, it's the lack of consultation. And why does the regions need or have to have Sydney's rubbish? You publicly declared your position. What was that?
Yeah, I opposed the Parks Energy to Waste precinct, and that's been proposed now for some months. I went over to WA and visited the facility. I wanted to do my own independent due diligence on this issue. It was a $1.6 billion proposal for parks. But essentially, Sydney's waste being transported hundreds of kilometres to parks. If you look at all the other waste energy facilities, whether they be in Australia or overseas, they're predominantly located very close to the source of where the waste is generated. And I've come away with the view that, and it was the one in WA is in a heavy industrialised precinct where there's refineries, where there's smelters. They're the sort of places these sort of facilities should be in my view. Parks 300 or 400 kilometres away from the source of where the waste is being generated from is not the right location for it. And, you know, it's just another one of these city-centric decisions made by governments to basically treat the people in the bush as second-class citizens, whether it comes to renewable energy or now facilities like this, where they just, you know, think that the regions are the dumping background or backyard for Sydney's waste. And I've heard loud and clear a lot of opposition by the parks community. I've done research, I've done community surveys, I've done some other polling as well. It is clear the majority of people in parks do not want this project in their town. I've always said it shouldn't be forced on a town that doesn't want it. And after conducting my own research, I came away with the view that Parkes isn't the right location. Hopefully the inquiry that's running at the moment, there was an inquiry back in 2018, I believe, when they looked at putting one in Western Sydney. And if you read the recommendations and findings from that inquiry back then, essentially it was that it shouldn't be based in Sydney. Any future proposal or waste energy plant should not be located in Sydney. What does that say to the people of the bush? What confidence does that give the people in the bush that there's no long-term health risk or health ramifications or devaluations of farms and properties in the adjoining areas? None. So, hopefully the inquiry will come out with some favourable recommendations, but certainly I stand with the Parkes community in my opposition to this project.
All right, Phil Donato, we've got to wrap it up, but thank you very much. Certainly a lot more to discuss on that topic and plenty more.